Okay, so I'm going to do a quick introduction of Luke. This is our very first like coaches corner chat. That's what we're calling this, Luke. And yeah, Luke is my first kettlebell coach, and I trained at his gym in San Francisco, and then he hired me on to teach some classes, and that was in 2016, 17.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I wanted to bring him on and just like geek out about kettlebells and talk about programming specifically. And I would love, Luke, for you to give an intro just kind of on yourself, like who you are, what you're doing, your experience in fitness, and then we can go from there. Sound good?
Okay. Sounds good. My name is Luke Wilson. I've been in this industry since I was 20. So it's been 23 years. I've been working with kettlebells for about 14 years. I've gone through the whole master's program through RKC, a couple other kettlebell certifications as well. Had my own kettlebell gym in San Francisco, the only kettlebell gym in San Francisco. And yeah, is there anything else I need to throw in there?
What are you doing now?
Oh, what am I doing now? Well, I traveled. I live on the road. I'm a digital nomad now. I do all my training over Zoom and FaceTime. And yeah, I travel around seeing all the national parks, national forests, because ever since COVID, it allowed me to go digital. And so I kind of left that scene behind, but it's kind of pulling me back in lately. So yeah, I didn't know if I would get back to it or not. I didn't know if I would own another gym or what the story was, but I've been talking about possibly moving abroad and living over there for a while. So
awesome.
Yeah.
How many gyms have you had?
I've had 3. And I just opened my last one before COVID hit. Like I opened it in January and then COVID hit in March. And yeah, that was that. So good idea though. My first gym was a personal training studio. My second gym was a kettlebell gym. And my third one was like a circuit training gym that I came up with that was more efficient with time, with balancing of the body and strengthening of the body, also getting your cardio at the same time. That was basically designed for around busy people in mind that like didn't have a lot of time. You didn't have to be at a class at a specific time. You could just show up whenever you needed to. You could jump into the circuit, knock the circuit out in 30 minutes, and then, you know, move on with your life. And that was what it was for. It was basically I guess working or family or whatever. Yeah. Busy life.
She wants the box that my computer was on. So that's gone.
That sounds that sounds about right.
I know, I'm on a lid. So do you bring kettlebells on the road with you? Like, do you have them in the truck? How many do you have? What do you have?
So what I have in my truck is I have, do you want them in kilos or pounds?
Pounds.
Pounds.
Kilos are hard.
35, a 44, and a 53. And these are all like the basic weights that, you know, I play with. You know, for women, I usually recommend an 18, a 26, and a 35. And for men, the base would be a 26, a 35, and a 44. You know, and that's what I recommend to everyone. So I carry a little bit heavier just because I've been doing it for a long time, but I do more for like cardio strength training now than actual strength training. I mean, for a long time, I did heavy bells. You know, I'd throw around 88-pound kettlebells, you know, a couple times a week, doing a whole workout around that bell itself. And I found that that was the most efficient way to move up in weight was I would just pick a bell and do everything with that bell until I adapted to that bell basically. And then I would just move up to the next one and keep moving up until I got to about 106 pounds. And then everything just felt heavy all the time. It felt like a lot of work all the time. And I was like, that was good. I'm happy with that.
Is that when you got more into like body weight training?
So yeah, I switched over to body weight training just because like I've been doing kettlebells for like over a decade. I had created gyms, I created programs, I created certifications. And so I was just kind of like, you know, as we all do when we've done something for so long, it's like, okay, you know, maybe it's time to move on to something else. And body weight was always difficult for me because I'm 6'4". So, you know, holding handstands and doing levers and things like that is very difficult. And so it was kind of a new way to challenge everything. And I like the movement. I've always been more into training a movement over than a body part. And my base is bodybuilding. That's where I started with. And I did that for a long time. I did that for over a decade. And that was great. That taught me a lot of stuff about just how to develop, like grow muscle, lean out, how to eat, you know, because bodybuilding is basically all those things. You can't, bodybuilding and eating go hand in hand. You can't do it without it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I didn't know that you did bodybuilding. That was my first sort of like entry into lifting too was my friend dragged me into a bikini show in like 2000, God, 14, 15, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I didn't know what I was doing like lifting wise before that. And then shortly thereafter, I got my personal training certification, and then found kettlebells like a couple years after that. So yeah, it's kind of like that's so intense. Like the bodybuilding world is so intense. And then like from there, CrossFit seems like a little bit more chill, and kettlebells seem like a little bit more chill because it's not so like dialed for all the things. Like you don't have to be like on this particular diet or going like so crazy with your workouts.
Oh yeah.
So back to like kettlebell training, what do you think that kettlebells are best for? Like, what do you think if you're using kettlebells, you're getting really good at X? And I'm not really talking about like a skill, but for getting strong, for getting in good shape. Like, what do you think that they're best suited for?
So actually, I'll tell you the way that I found kettlebells for myself. I was into martial arts, and I wanted to know like what the best strength training was for martial arts, for wrestling, for anything like that. And I came across kettlebells, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I was like, this is a cannonball with a handle. Like I've never seen this before. Like, what is this? And this is probably around 2008. And the kettlebells kind of came into the United States around 2001 by Pavel Tsatsouline. And so when I found out about the kettlebells, I wanted to learn from the best guy. So I basically flew to Minnesota for a week, and I did a whole course with him personally. And yeah, what was your question again? Sorry, I kind of
like what are
sidetracked a little bit.
kettlebells best
Oh,
suited
thank you.
for? Like what,
Thank you.
yeah. So you're thinking like mobility, like strength through
Yeah.
the ways
Well,
that your body can move.
and so the kettlebell actually trained from the core out. This is what I kind of learned. Like when you're doing bodybuilding, you're laying on a bench, you know, you're sitting on a leg press.
Isolating.
Yeah, you're isolating things that you want to grow specifically, because if you do a bodybuilding competition, they're going to look at you and be like, your legs are great. You need to build your biceps up. You need to build your lats up, or you need to work on your abs. And so you are isolating in that type of environment, where with kettlebells, it was more like, I needed to have stability where stability is needed, and I need to be mobile where mobility is needed. It was very functional. You lock the core down. Everything has to be braced by the core. If you look at, you're pretty much doing almost all your exercises on your feet, which is again athletic in nature. And so you're taking this ball of steel and you're throwing it around your body in different angles, different directions, while you have to brace yourself to the floor. So it was one of those things where, yeah, you get immense development out of the core. And I remember like taking it into the gym when I was doing martial arts, and I would do Brazilian jiu-jitsu with a guy that was a power lifter, and this guy could easily lift more weight than I could. He could squat 800 pounds. He could bench press 500 pounds. And I would, do Brazilian jiu-jitsu with him and wrestle with him on the floor, and I would just destroy him. And he would be like, how can you do this? Like, I've been training this hard, I'm this strong, and I can't figure it out. And so I was like, dude, it's kettlebells. Like, I'm training my core. I'm training to move. I'm training to be strong in motions, where you're just training to be strong in one direction. Like I have multiple directions. And so actually it's funny, because after years went by, I left that gym and I saw him like 3 years later at like a festival. And I was like, hey, how are you doing? And he's like, dude, I got into kettlebells. And he's like, I feel strong and I've been ripped, and like my girlfriend's into it. And we're doing like competitions. He just had that kind of personality. But I was like, oh, cool. And he loved it, and he got into it as well. So yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, I feel like in my fitness membership, which is like kettlebell fitness membership, there's we do like 4 workouts a week. 2 of them are strength training, 2 of them are more like conditioning based. And now that it's been around for a few years, I start to notice with like the folks that are in it, it tends to be a lot of like former athletes or people who still consider themselves athletic. And when you said like you're on your feet for most of the movements, it's very athletic in nature. I feel like maybe we gravitate to this type of movement because it's fun. It feels like, something that we used to do back when we were in like team sports or doing, sports as a younger person. But I think that if you have been an athlete or you consider yourself athletic, like kettlebells very much lend themselves to your strengths. Do you think you can get super strong using kettlebells, or do you think that like barbells are a better option or something else?
No, I think you can totally get super strong with kettlebells. And it's a little bit different. Like with barbells, I mean, you can usually, if you're doing bench press, you're getting strong in a motion and you are building muscle and you're getting strong. But the thing is, how do I put this? It's more functionally strong. It's more strong that like where in nature have you like been like, okay, I'm going to brace myself. I'm going to pick up this refrigerator because this is what I normally squat, and I'm going to pick it up and I'm just going to lift it and then I'm going to put it back down. Like very rarely. But when we do move in nature, like we're picking a kid up that's 40 pounds on one side and we're like, okay, I got to lift you up, I got to hold you on one side, and now I got to go move with you. I got to pick up a bag of groceries as well on the same time. Like everything, it's a little more dynamic with nature in general than just doing barbells. Now you can get strong with a lot of different things. You can get strong with kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells, body weight, anything like that, and they all offer their own benefit. But I feel like kettlebells are one of those things that it's much more, as I said, dynamic. You can do a lot of the same stuff with a single dumbbell that you can with a kettlebell, but the difference is, as we all know, the handlebell is off of the weight of, off the center line. So now I have to stabilize more. I have to throw this around more, which makes even like a 20, pound kettlebell feel like it's a 50-pound kettlebell, because now it's awkward to handle. Where a dumbbell, you're right in the middle, you can lift, you can throw it around. You can't really do it with the kettlebell. It forces you to have good form, and it forces you to stabilize and work in the appropriate ways.
What do you want me to do, Mary? Oh, can you give me the remote? Right there. Do you think there's anything that like kettlebells aren't great for? Like, you can only deadlift 53 pounds so many times before you're like, okay, well, that was kind of silly. You know what I mean? Like, is there anything that's they're like not the best for?
I would say that's a tough one because, okay, if like you have like say a bad back, it might, it's all, kettlebells is a lot of posterior chain. It's a lot of your backside that you're working. And the good thing is it strengthens that backside, but at the same time, because it works so much, you do have a little bit of a chance of injury. So, but like anything else, you have a chance of injury as well. Anytime you're working your backside, because if you pick up anything, it's you're using your posterior chain, you're using your backside to lift something. So it really doesn't matter. I feel like it builds a lot of more, okay, we're getting back to what I know. I'm going to answer your question. Like, what do I feel like it's not good for? Actually, I can't really come up with anything, like, to be honest with you, like, because if you wanted to, you could use it for cardio. You could go lighter weight. You could do higher rep. You could move at a faster pace. You can get that cardio strength training. You can also lift really heavy kettlebells and pick up heavy kettlebells and have to stabilize hard through those motions. And I can't really see anything bad about it. I would say that the only thing bad is if you're trying to do it without having someone to teach you how to do it. That would probably be the only bad thing. It's one of those things where form is a little bit more important, or form is important with everything, actually. One of the great metaphors I heard for form was, someone was saying that, oh, I could just do this, my form is a little off, it's okay. And I was like, well, if you're making a recipe and you don't put the right ingredients into your recipe that you're doing, your cake, your soup, whatever, you're not going to have the same thing. You're not going to have as good a recipe as you want it to be. Like, you need all the ingredients, you need all the form, and you need to have it done on a regular basis so that, then you can do it on your own. But it's definitely something that I feel like you need to have somebody there. And the beautiful thing about kettlebells is you can actually learn them really quickly because they're so functional in nature. Like, you could I could teach someone how to, use kettlebells to master's level within probably 3 or 4 months if they're actually really wanting to do it. That's another beautiful thing. If you want to learn how to do bodybuilding, you're going to need years to do the bodybuilding stuff. Calisthenics, you're going to need years to do the calisthenic stuff. So the nice thing is if you don't have to put in a lot of time to get a lot of reward out of kettlebells. That's the beautiful thing about kettlebells.
And like it's like an inch wide, but a mile deep. Like, you can learn all this stuff with kettlebells, but then you're just refining, practicing, being able to do it better. I look at, my kettlebell swing from 5 years ago versus today. It's a fucking totally different thing. And like, same with the snatch, like totally different looking movement. And it's like, we, in our group, we do all the same stuff all the time. It's squats, it's swings, it's snatches, it's Turkish get-ups, it's overhead presses, cleans. Like, we don't deviate too much from that. And then we put stuff together in complexes and chains and, pair different movements together, but it's not a lot else. And it's like still fun. And been doing that for a really long time, and I'm not bored yet. So hopefully, knock on wood, that doesn't happen anytime soon. In Swings gym, there you had pull-up bars
Yep.
and some rowers, and then that was it. We like ran the hill, kettlebells, pull-up bars, rower, and that was it.
Well, and that's another thing about the kettlebells is like any piece of equipment, you can't do everything, like you need a pull-up bar to do pull-ups. You can simulate it kind of a little bit with a kettlebell, but not to the degree of what you want it to be. You can do a chest press with a kettlebell, but a push-up is going to be much more efficient. So like there's certain things that you're going to want to use the kettlebell for, and then there's certain things that you're going to want to do other pieces of equipment for. Like even a dumbbell, you can't simulate everything. So every piece of equipment has some sort of limitation, but then they also have some sort of benefit. Like look at a medicine ball, for instance, super functional in nature. You can use that, use it diagonally, straight up and down, lateral, forward and backwards. Like you can cover all your planes of motion, and kettlebells cover almost all those planes of motion as well. But the diagonal plane is hard to get. And with bodybuilding, that's never there. Powerlifting, that's never there. So you need multiple pieces of equipment, multiple types of training. But like the thing is, if you want to learn anything, you have to put that effort into that one thing until you kind of master it. Like you just said, like you've been doing it for years and you're not bored with it. It means you're not mastered it yet. When you get to the point where you master it, like you're never bored with it. You're just kind of like, wow, like you start to have realizations of like, oh, I need to make this little tweak. I need to make this little tweak. I need to make this little tweak. And then you get to the point where you're just kind of like, you feel like you've refined it enough where you're like, I know this. It's like being a master chef and you know how to make all these different things. Well, now you just want to make something different. Maybe you want to go for making pastries and you want to go into cooking meat, or, maybe you want to try a different type of cuisine. So that's the nice thing is that's what I liked about kettlebells. I did it for like 10 years, like strong, and I still do kettlebells to this day. I just don't do them as much. I used to do them 3 to 4 times a week, and that was a lot. That's a lot of kettlebell lifting every single week.
Yeah, my hands are fucked.
Oh yeah. Well, that's probably one of the biggest downsides is the hands. Like the hands get wrecked a little bit. And I don't recommend people use gloves because you're supposed to feel the kettlebell. You want that proprioception that's in there in the hand, but you have to file down your calluses. You're going to have to like put lotion on your hands. You have to take care of your hands more than almost anything with a kettlebell. Yeah.
I'm teaching an in-person class right now at what is a CrossFit gym. So it's like CrossFitters, and there's like 4 kettlebell classes a week. So I'm teaching one every other week, and their form with kettlebells is trash because they're never taught like rack position. They're not taught, like every swing they do is an American swing, and they're like hips are hyperextended, and they're swinging down like by their knees. It's the craziest thing. I'm like, okay guys, like I hate to be the a-hole that comes in and like cracks the whip, but y'all like need to find rack position and like straighten your wrist. They sometimes do Turkish get-ups, but not well. And then because they're CrossFitters, they do like dumbbell snatches, and like kettlebell snatch is so different. They hate me, but I'm determined that at some point they're going to get it together. Talking about like programming a little bit more and like all the different planes of motion. When we're talking about like a program, not a workout, but like a program that you're going to follow for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever it is, like and specifically with kettlebells, like what needs to be in that program? And I guess the goal being to be strong, but also be like in good shape.
Yeah. Well, I mean, any program needs balance, because that's the thing is if you're working that much posterior chain, you need to make sure that your anterior chain is just as strong and your lateral chain as well. So that was one of my big mistakes that I made in like the beginning is everything was just all kettlebells all the time. And I was stuck in hyperextension. My back was like fully upright, great posture, but I just overtrained those muscles so much that I had no flexibility. So I had to go back and like work at opening up my posterior chain, strengthening my anterior chain. And so, yeah, balance would probably be my number one thing that I would say is making sure that you're doing enough stuff and balance either in the workout or like maybe you do a day of kettlebells and then you do a day of everything else. That maybe it's just a day of therapy. Like I loved yoga. That was what saved me over kettlebells is I would have a day of kettlebells and then a day of yoga, a day of kettlebells, a day of yoga. And that was great because it worked on my flexibility. It worked on opening everything up. And so that needs to definitely be in there. I mean, in all your basics, like you're covering everything that you need to, like mastering your squat, mastering your swing and your deadlift and everything. And the thing about mastering something is like as you're a student, you're doing it until you can get it right, but then once you're mastering something, you're you're doing it till you don't get it wrong. And there's nothing to say that like someone's not good enough to do a swing, but like you said, like after 5 years of refining it, you've mastered it so much that you know that your body, and it's not mastering it for everyone else, it's mastering it for yourself. You know that your body is working efficiently where you can create enough force, but you don't have to put out much effort. Like that's mastery. Like, you know, like when you grab that swing and you've been doing your swing in the beginning, it feels like work, you know, where you're just kind of like, oh, you're doing a lot of work. But now I could probably grab a kettlebell and you could probably do 100 swings. You're like, that wasn't that bad. Like, because you know swings so well. Hi, Mary.
Say hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
What's your favorite kettlebell movement?
Oh, I like the Olympic lifts personally. So like snatches. I like the clean and jerk probably. It's probably one of my favorites. That one, because you can go strong. The clean, you can do a lot of like heavy weight. You can throw it up and you can get it up overhead. So that's probably one of my favorites. I used to love the get up, but you know, the get up's rough.
No, you're like, it's too hard.
It's like, yeah, well, that's kind of like, well, it's a lot of effort to put out there. And like, it's really good, but I definitely don't do get-ups like I used to. I would do 15 get-ups like every other day on each side.
That's a lot of get-ups. My God. I know. I remember working out with you and you'd be like, okay, we're going to do 10 get-ups on each side and then we'll get into the workout. And I'm like dying. I'm like still on like rep 4 and you're done. Like, my God, this is terrible.
It was a lot of get-ups. But yeah. I mean, the main thing you want to do is master the swing. In fact, actually, if you just have your swing down and that's all you have, like you can do all the power lifts because all the power lifts come from the swing. It all comes from that hip hinge. So if all you want to do is just do swings, you could just, who was it? It was Tim Ferriss that did, it was like 100 swings every day for like a month. And he like recorded exactly like what had happened in the body fat he lost, the development of the muscles and the glutes and the core strength. And his body got ripped within 1 month. And that's all he did was 100 swings every single day for an entire month. And it was amazing they changed that.
How heavy did he go? Because I feel like I've done challenges where we do 100 kettlebell swings like 5 days a week. But I feel like if you're using 15 pounds, it's probably not yielding like the biggest results.
Well, yeah. And that's the problem with going light. Like a lot of people want to go light on their weight. But the thing is light allows you to break form. Like we all know, like if it's heavy, you're forced to use the correct form to move the weight. So you don't want to go too heavy where you can't keep form because the kettlebell is just too heavy, but you don't want to go so light that, you know, you can throw your arm in different positions and doing overhead press because the weight is so light. Like you have to find, again, it's that middle area to create the most development. I think that I think it was a 53 that he used, and it didn't matter how he broke it up. He could have done 10 sets of 10, but he would just do 100 every day for a month. And the changes that he had was amazing. And it was in his book. What was that book? It was like the 4-Hour Body or something like that I read.
Who was the author?
Tim Ferriss.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I always liked Tim Ferriss because he was the guy that experimented with himself. And that was always like how I was, where I was like, when I would learn a move, I would never have my clients do it until I had that move down, where I was like, okay, this is what's supposed to be going on. I would just kind of get into my body and like learn how this move happened. And then I could teach other people how to do it. And that's kind of like what he was like. He always liked to experiment with himself and see, you know, drinking bulletproof coffee every day for a month or 6 months or whatever to see what it would do. I always liked that. Like it was always crazy because sometimes you do things that aren't that good for you, but you know, you find out a lot about yourself.
I just want to ask the other folks that are on this call, Stephen and Anna, do you guys have any questions? I can keep asking, but I just want to make sure if you guys have any specific questions that you get them answered. So you can either just unmute yourself and ask away. Anna is actually a personal trainer who's kettlebell certified in Sacramento. And then Stephen is in the Central Valley where I live. Anna, you unmuted, so I wanted to.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm popping in here just because I can't stay more than a few minutes. I've got another meeting, so thanks for the question. So I'm gonna say I've been a trainer for about a year, so it's fun. I've been learning a ton from Rachel being in that program, and I've been applying it a little bit, you know, in the workouts that I do. One thing that's kind of interesting to me is on the programming side is the multiple days. You know, Rachel, I know like you offer multiple days a week, but then I'm so impressed because like everybody kind of cycles through all those days, and heck, even you do the workouts every day. And I have in my mind still so much the like a rest day in between work days, but I feel like, you know, I'd be more interested in that, like how you can do multiple days in a row and your body can take it and you still have like recovery. So I was wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Well, and I definitely am like a person that probably needs to do a little bit less rather than more. Like, I feel like there are two kinds of people. The person that's like, you probably need to take a rest day. And then the person's like, you probably need to get off your ass. So I'm probably the person that should take a rest day. And Luke, just so you know, we have workouts scheduled like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rest day on Thursday, and then another workout on Friday, and then nothing programmed on Saturday, Sunday. So it's like 3 in a row, and your body's pretty like depleted by that third workout, and then rest day, and then another workout. So, and it goes like conditioning, strength, conditioning. So there should probably be, we used to have a rest day on Wednesdays, but then I think because of my schedule, we switched it up. So I would be curious, and they're 45 minutes. So we do like a 5 to 6 minute warm up, and then about a 35-minute workout, cool down, stretch, and that's it. But I'm curious, Luke, what you think about, you know, that pace, I guess, day in and day out. And we don't really have like deload weeks per se. I just always encourage people to like listen to their body. If you didn't sleep well, if your kid is sick, like if you're super stressed, like take a chill pill. But if you're feeling good, like push it.
Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole coach's corner on just recovery alone. Because there's so many factors, right? It's like, how hard did you do the workout? Well, you know, and I hate to say like age, but the way I recovered when I was in my 20s, not the way that I recovered now. Like in my 20s, I could crush through almost anything. And as I get older, I need a little bit, you know, a little more break. How you ate, like you said, like how you slept. Like all these things matter. Like if you're one of those people that work and you don't ever sleep, your rest cycles aren't going to be enough for you to recover for that. You know, if you're someone that likes to sleep a lot, maybe that's great. And everyone needs a different amount of sleep. Everyone needs different calories. Like how many calories are you dehydrated that day? You know, how much hydration do you have to help your body recover? Like we all know that the body retains water to heal itself. This is why we all kind of get a little bit, you know, bloated after workouts, where people are like, I feel like I'm putting too much weight on or whatever. My muscles are getting too big. I'm like, it's just water weight. Just keep going. It'll be fine.
They're just like, they're like filling with fluid because you just like broke things down. Yeah. You got the pump.
Yeah, exactly. You got the pump. And then also like how you break up your workouts. Like, are you doing lower body days, upper body days? Are you doing full body days? Are you doing push pull days? Like, how are you breaking up your workouts? Like, does matter. You know, if you do a push day and then a pull day, you're fine. You're working different muscles. I mean, a little bit of the same muscles getting worked, but you're working different muscles, or same thing with upper and lower. If you're doing full body workouts every single day, you know, you might get to the point where you do have a little bit of burnout, and then you need to take at least a day, if not 2 days off of rest. Mm-hmm. So, but you know, you have, as you just said, your program, you had 3 days that kind of like grind you down. You get a day of rest, and then you get one more workout in, and then you get 2 days of rest. So, I mean, that program right there, I'd say if it works for you, cool. You know, maybe if you have a client that doesn't work for, take a day off. You know, maybe you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you know, and you take that extra day off. Or maybe you do Monday, Tuesday, and then take Tuesday, Thursday, or Wednesday, Thursday off and come back Friday. Maybe you need 2 days. Like, and everyone, I was always that person that could recover within like 24 hours. Like my body was very efficient at recovery, but I had friends that were like super sore. They'd be sore like 2 days, 3 days later, where I wouldn't be sore for that. So, you know, your metabolism plays a role. So like, as I said, like we could talk about recovery for like hours and like what you should do and what, you know, what's your activity like in your life and what you're doing. Like if you're a PT too, like, you know, you said that you had just been doing it for about like a year. Sometimes when you're doing PT, you're demonstrating, you're doing your own workouts, you're demonstrating so many different exercises to so many different clients. You're on your feet all day long. You know, that can be exhausting in itself. You know, that's not as much as we want to think like, oh, I'm not really working out, but you're doing physical activity. And so if your body's not up to that, you know, maybe you're not eating enough calories because you're busy, or you're not drinking enough water because you're busy. Like all these things play a factor in the role. But to look at kettlebells, like when I would do full body workouts, I usually did I would do one hard workout and then I would have a day off. And then I would do one hard workout and a day off. But that was me knowing that my body took 24 hours. So I would take that 24 hours off for myself and then I would continue. So, but everyone is different. Like I have clients that, you know, we do all kinds of different stuff. Sometimes I have a client that I see 2 days in a row, and then I don't see her for another day, and then I see her a day later. So our schedule is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And so I have her do a split early in the week. I have her do upper, lower. She's also like 67 years old. So I have her do a split. Do we get a little bit more work on the upper, lower, or push pull on Monday, Tuesday? I have her take a day off, do a little bit of cardio, go outside, walk, you know, get into nature, breathe some fresh air, get on whatever treadmill, whatever. And then we come back on Thursday and we do a full body functional workout because I want her to stay functional at her age. I want her to be able to move. Like today I was having her do deck squats, 67 years old, and this woman's doing deck squats with a medicine, with a almost like a 15-pound medicine ball, you know, and rocking it. And she's no problem doing it.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, like, which is great. So, you know, taking into consideration of what you want, you know, what are your goals, you know, what's your lifestyle? Like recovery it's a lot. It's as much as doing, you know, having the education of knowing how to work out, period. It's like, oh, I know how to do workouts with dumbbells. I know how to do workouts with kettlebells. I know how to do body weight. I know how to do barbells. I know the different motions. I know how to do functional training. Like it takes a long time to learn all that stuff. And then, you know, recovery takes a long time too. And recovery is very personal. And that, you know, and diet's very personal as well. You know, if anyone ever says to you, like, this is how you should recover, this is how everyone should recover, this is the diet that everyone should be on, I would just not listen to that person. I would walk away and be like, yeah, that's not going to work for me. So there's only so many exercises that we can do. You know, the body only moves in certain ways. You can only do so many exercises, and we can all do those exercises, but how we recover and how we diet, how we eat, how our lifestyles are, those are the things that are all different and unique to all of us. So that's the stuff that we have.
The training piece is like the easiest piece. And then all the other stuff is like that, you know, 50,000 other decisions you make every day. But what I'm hearing from you is like, Anna, if you feel like you need an extra rest day or 3 workouts or 2 workouts a week versus 4 is best for you, then like no shame, no, like, don't feel bad about it. That's just what's best for you. And there might come a day where I'm like, we ain't doing 4 kettlebell workouts. We're doing 3, or we're doing, you know, an extra stretching day. I don't lead stretching classes anymore because like no one showed up. So
yeah, that's the sad thing. When I had my gyms, we would have recovery classes. Like we literally would have foam rolling and
remember.
You'd have like 2 people in class. You'd have a kettlebell workout. It'd be packed full, you know, and then you would have a stretching day of recovery. No one would show up, and you'd be like, you couldn't give it away. I tell people like, come on in. If we're gonna do free class on Saturday morning, who wants to show up? Like one person would show up, and you'd be like, oh man, like no one wants to be in recovery. People
want to sweat, but they don't want to take that time to like, you know, actually let their bodies heal.
Yeah, or until they're broken. That's what I saw a lot of. Is like once people like broke down and it was too much for them, oh, you'll do everything in your power to get yourself out of pain. But until you get there, you're not gonna do much about it.
What were you gonna say, Steven?
I missed the active recovery session. I really enjoyed doing the yoga, and I like the stretching. It was always like one of my favorite days. It's just sometimes I couldn't make it.
Yeah.
But most part, when I could, I was like, man, I'm there.
Yeah.
And like I think, Luke, you're pretty cool, man. Like you're living the dream. Stuff that I always wanted to do, like yoga, martial arts, working out. You got a cool story. Kettlebells is something new to me, and like I'm really enjoying it. I've only been doing it now for probably about 8 months now.
No, I feel like since May of last year. So yeah.
Somewhere in there.
But yeah, Steven and I went to high school together. He was a football player, and he was talking some shit on kettlebells inside of his head until he tried it, and then he was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool.
Sounds about normal. Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, until she started kicking my ass with it.
Yep. I was the same way with a lot of things where, you know, you're like, I ain't gonna do that. Like that was like yoga. I ain't gonna do that. And then, oh my God. I remember my first yoga, I was like sweating more in yoga than I ever was in anything else. I'm like, well, why am I dying here? Yeah, I need this. Yeah.
Was there any specific questions, Steven, that you wanted answered?
No, I don't have any questions.
Luke, he bought a gorilla bell, like one of them with like faces on them. And then he like threw it across the house on accident, and it dented his like wood floor and says like 2 poot on it now.
Hey, at least it landed on that side. 2 pooed. That's funny. Yep.
Yeah, it would have
Yeah.
like cratered the floor otherwise if it was on the other side.
Well, that's part of the rules of kettlebells, right? Rule 1 is don't hit yourself, and then rule 2 is don't hit anything else with the kettlebell.
Yeah.
Yep.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
It's true.
Well, I feel like you answered a ton of like the questions that I had. Is there anything that you feel like we didn't cover that is worth saying before we close out?
Not that I can think of. I mean, the simplicity of kettlebells is really nice. Like that's kind of one thing I really dug about it. And like no one really knows. Like when I opened my gym, my first gym or swing or the kettlebell gym, like no one was doing it. And if anyone was doing it in the gym, they weren't doing it right. And that was one of the things that drove me to teach people how to do it. And the amount of people that would come up to me, like even in a short amount of time, like a month, 2 months later, and they would tell me like my knees are like don't hurt anymore, my lower back doesn't anymore, I stand up taller, I have more confidence. Like that type of stuff that kind of comes with the kettlebell is nice, and like the simplicity of it is nice. Like this is why I kind of stuck with kettlebell so long. Like it's simple, it's effective. It gives you everything from cardio to strength training to flexibility, mobility to stability. Like it covers all angles. So I mean, kettlebells is kind of here to stay, and I know that it's a nice thing that it was brought over here by Pavel and they shared it, because before it was strictly only in Russia, and usually it was only in the Russian military. Like this is the stuff that they kept kind of secret from a lot of people, and he came over here to kind of teach it all. And so got to be kind of thankful to him for that. So that's about it.
I have one last question that like just I guess interval training. So when you opened your circuit gym, you were doing like primarily like 2-minute circuits, and my like members hate it when we do those workouts because they're so terrible. What do you think about like the different like 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off? Like what is the difference other than obviously the length of time that you're working, but is one better than the other? Is one better for fat loss? Is one better for, and I'm just like throwing out shit that I hear all the time. Like, is there one that's better than the others, or should we be doing all of them just at different times? Kind of like reps, like doing 5 reps of something versus 15 versus 8. And I'm talking about specifically like conditioning.
Yeah. So I mean, like you're talking like Tabatas. Like the original Tabata was 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, and the reason for that was basically that you got a little bit of rest, but you could kind of keep going, and they would do it for long durations. You would do like 10, 20 sets at this time, and then it jumped to like Tabata is anything it's double the time of what the rest is. So 30 seconds.
So it could be like 40, 20, 20,
I always
10.
like 40, 20. That was my favorite to use. I tried all the different times. I liked 40, 20 because it gave you enough work that you could like feel the burn. You had to push a little bit harder. You had to stay with it. And then you got 20 seconds break where it was like enough to recover, but it was like, oh man, like here we go again. So I preferred that. I've also worked at 1 minute on, 30 seconds off. And I felt like it was like too much where I couldn't do the whole minute. And then 30 seconds was almost like too much rest where I was like, okay, I'm kind of standing around. So the reason why I came up with the 2-minute drills is because 2-minute drills, the whole purpose of that was another book that I read. Oh God, what was that guy's name? I think it was like Arthur Jones was his name. I could be wrong, but I read this book and he talked about high intensity training, and he comes from the 70s, and he looked at training as like, all you have to do is stimulate the muscle to like its full potential. And so he says that he would just have people do reps and reps and reps and reps, and they would get tired, and he would like either have them take a quick break and just keep going until that muscle was just fully exhausted. And then he would switch and he would train a different muscle or different movement. And it usually took about 2 minutes to do this. And then he would give someone a little bit of a break, and then he would have them work something differently. And then he would scientifically watch to see what the body would do. And he had a lot of people that did this, and they got a lot of benefit out of it. And he noticed that your growth hormone went up. The students that he was having, or the participants in this, they all gained like huge amounts of muscle mass, and everyone was different, obviously, but he noticed that they gained muscle mass. They would lean out, they would lose body fat, and they didn't have to do a lot. They would do about 12 exercises. You would do it for 2 minutes on, about 30 seconds off. And he found that like everybody was like getting shredded. Everyone was gaining muscle mass, and you didn't have to put in like 2-hour workouts every single day. And this is back when, like, you know, Arnold was one of the big guys back at the time. And this is like in the 80s where, you know, guys were in the gym for like 4 hours a day. And he was just like, no, there has to be a much more efficient way. So this guy came along and he looked at all of this scientific evidence to prove that, like, look, you don't need to work out a lot. You just need a little bit of high intensity. You need to hit the muscle hard enough where it needs something to adapt to. And by adapting to that, like, he saw great benefits in everybody. And so that's why I was like, you know what, I'm going to take this guy's, I guess you couldn't call it a theory because he scientifically proved it, but, you know, take this guy's education and knowledge, and I'm going to apply it to a gym. And I did that. And then I took my education of understanding how to program to balance the body out. So like we would have like 2 cardio exercises. I would give them 3 leg exercises. Then we would do 4 upper body exercises. And this was all based off of functional training from a guy named Robert Remedios. And his whole thing was like, you have your vertical press, your vertical pull. So you have your overhead press, your pull up, and then you have your horizontal push is your push up, and your horizontal pull is your row. You have your hip hinge, you have your knee hinge. There's your leg exercises right there. You have your core stability and your core rotation. So the whole thing was based around all of those motions, which is 8 motions. And, you know, and I threw in a couple other ones as well that I like to throw in there. But by doing this, he trained athletes, and he found that athletes were well-rounded and had less chance of injury by training this way. So I just kind of took a bunch of different books that I read and made and designed this gym around that. And it was really efficient. I was kind of sad that it didn't work out because COVID shut it down. COVID shut it down. And this is why I'm kind of like, you know, should I open this back up? And like, I didn't have the intention of making a lot of money. My intention was just like, hey, like, this is something that's balanced. It's efficient. People get their cardio. They can stay healthy. They don't have to spend a lot of time. So it was just taking my knowledge and helping it apply to other people so that they could reap the benefits that I reaped by you know, educating myself. So
will you come back and take my group through one of those workouts?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll schedule it. They'll be excited.
They hate the 2-minute drills, so this should be fun.
Right. It'll be fun with you coaching, though. They won't hate me. They'll just hate you.
Yeah, they'll hate me.
No,
That's cool. Like, don't bring Luke back.
Fine.
We didn't like that.
All right. Well, Mary wants to get in the bath, so we'll kind of wrap it up now because she calls all the shots in my life. Thank you so much for coming on. I have very much enjoyed this conversation, and I know other people who are in the group did too. Thank you, Stephen, for hanging out.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Luke. And you're joining us from, are you in Pismo right now?
I'm in Pismo Beach, California right now. Yep. I'll be here for about another week, and then I hit the road and I'm going over to the east side of the United States to see some more national parks and forests. And yeah, going over near like Tornado Land, which is kind of funny. I got a funny story about that, but yeah.
Chasing tornadoes.
I've never seen one. I'm kind of fascinated by them at the same time, but they're also terrifying because they can kind of come anywhere. So I'm like,
maybe just stay away.
Yeah, just stay away. Yeah.
Yeah. So, don't be a tornado chaser.
Maybe that's what I'll be next time. Yeah.
Yeah. Take care.
Right,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye.